Now we come to Djoser's pyramid. I really need to check Google sometimes. Now we come to the step pyramid of Djoser, or Djoser, whatever. And what we have here is the development of the mastaba into a pyramid and into a larger mortuary precinct or city of the dead. And how did this develop? Well, we can see the original mastaba in the middle, and basically the step pyramid is nothing more than a series of mastabas built one on top of the next. Kind of the next logical progression from the mastaba to the pyramid. We see it maintains most of the same ideas: the burial chamber underground, the air shaft up to the mastaba, the entry into a chapel, although here instead of family, because like Game of Thrones, most of them kill each other. In this case, we would have priests coming in because they are worshiping a god in the form of the pharaoh. So let's get into this a little bit more. Really, the whole thing is a massive complex that would include temples, buildings, courtyards, and dummy structures such as breweries and bakeries, everything that Djoser would need when he's dead. But they're all fake. So they're not actual bakeries. They're just stone structures that kind of look like a bakery or a brewery, because of course the Egyptians will invent beer or any of these other structures that he might need. There was also a temple built to worship the deified pharaoh. He's a god, so you can show up to worship him. In fact, you would worship him. And to bring that up again, you could worship him as you enter. You could bring sacrifices into this area. So your common person could come in, although they usually don't. And then the priests are the only ones who will actually enter into the more sacred chapel inside the step pyramid. The four corners of the pyramid will face the four cardinal directions, and it looks a lot like our ziggurats. But it's really a tomb. There's actually a body in there. There's no cella at the top. There are no rituals happening on top of the pyramid. Also, the Egyptians get really upset if you climb the pyramid. You will be arrested. Don't do it. It is tempting. This is one of the oldest stone structures in Egypt, and the idea here was to create a massive form to assist the pharaoh in ascending to the heavens and following those rays of sunlight to the heavens. We also see engaged stone columns. And these are engaged because they're attached to the wall. They're not freestanding. I can't walk behind them. And they're meant to look like reeds. The reason is because the Nile is lined by those papyrus marshes, by those reed marshes. So they see this as a transition, as a symbol of transition from life to death. So again, we see the reeds being used as that transitional symbol, showing the pharaoh moving from life on this earth to life in the next world or in the afterlife. There is, of course, no structural function here. They aren't holding up the walls. They aren't doing anything else. They are purely decorative at this point. So what we should look at is the similarities and differences between the ziggurat and the pyramid, because many students will look at these structures and think they're the same. But keep in mind, there's no one buried in a ziggurat. There is someone buried in a pyramid. There are no rituals going on at the top of the pyramid, but there are at the ziggurat. Both serve a religious function. In one case, ancestor worship. In the case of the pyramids, and in the case of the ziggurat, religious ritual. So they both have their own purposes. We see pyramid structures all over the world. We would see them in a non-Western class in Mesoamerica, for example, or in Japan, or elsewhere. They have different functions, but they always have one common idea, which is the idea of an artificial mountain or an artificial monument. The Egyptians see that mountain as sort of a landmark. that will help them get to the afterlife. At least the pharaoh will be helped to get to the afterlife. In the case of the Sumerians, they're creating an artificial mountain to get closer to the gods. So same sort of idea, the artificial mountain, but different when you get down into the details.